Hey, hi, hello, my name is Tate, and welcome to a different video today. Well, all of them are different. Today, obviously, my setup is different because I have roommates here, so I can't just film in the middle of the living room. Today, what I'm going to be talking about is 7 series that I have not read and do not plan on ever reading. Obviously, life can change. Maybe one day I'll think, yeah, I want to try this out for one reason or another. But right now, they're just not interesting to me, or I just don't like the content, or whatever else there is. So, let's get started. The first series that I don't plan on ever reading is A Song of Ice and Fire by... oh my god, I just forgot his name. I'm gonna get wrecked by all the nerd boys. Oh god. George... isn't it George R. Martin? Are there 2 R's? Or am I thinking of J.R.R. Tolkien? The Song of Ice and Fire by George R. Martin. This, if you don't know this series, is the book version of the show Game of Thrones, which if you don't know what that is, you might need to get outside more, or like get outside less maybe, and just sit in and watch TV more. It's just like a huge epic fantasy, medieval kingdoms who are warring and there's magic involved and dragons. This is obviously a very, very popular series and a very popular TV show, and a lot of people really love it, but I just don't really wanna. Like, that's just it. Like, I'm just not really interested in it. I like fantasy, but something about, like, Song of Ice and Fire, I just don't know if I'd enjoy it, and at least from what I've heard, there's a lot of sex. I know there's a lot of sex in the TV show. I don't know if there is in the books, but I'm just not a big sex person. I'm really sex repulsed, so I don't like reading a lot of sex scenes, especially like explicit ones, and I don't know. This is just one, whenever I've thought about reading it, I just kind of go, I don't wanna. So I think that's a good sign that I don't really want to read it. And speaking of Thrones, the next series that I do not plan on ever reading is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas.
Hello, darkness, my old...
This series is very polarizing on BookTube. A lot of people love this series with all their heart, would murder someone over it, but the other half, or I don't know if it's half, I don't know the split between who likes and doesn't like this series, but the other half is like, I really hate this series, I don't want to read any more Sarah J. Maas, it's really problematic, it's really badly written, I don't like any of the characters. I know that theoretically I could be on the side of really enjoying it, but just knowing what I like and I don't like, and knowing how many people whose reviews I trust have really disliked this series, I just don't think I'm gonna enjoy it, and I also just don't really want to get into all that BookTube drama. I just don't think I want to incur the wrath of any part of BookTube, because no matter how I enjoy or not enjoy that book, I'm probably gonna get dragged by someone, and it's not worth it. I just don't think that I'm gonna enjoy even the idea of trying to read the series as much as it's gonna be annoying to deal with all the polarizing opinions. And it's also really long, and that last book is like 900 pages, and ooh, yeah, just big yikes. Big yikes. In the same vein of Sarah J. Maas, I also do not plan on ever reading A Court of Thorns and Roses series. There was a point in time when I actually was planning on reading this series, and I really wanted to read it. I was trying to get a hold of the books because a friend of mine was saying that it was really good, that especially the second one was absolutely stellar. And then at first I just kind of like, I knew a lot of spoilers for the book, so I was just like, maybe I'll just like keep up with people talking about it but not read it. And then I started to hear a lot more negative reviews of it, of especially the last book that's out. And again, Sarah J. Maas is just kind of a mess to get into. So I just don't know if I want to deal with that. I feel like I'm slightly more likely to try this one than Throne of Glass, just because I've had interest in the past. I've had interest in the Maas. But right now, there's so many books that I want to read, and I don't want to like force myself to read this book just because it's popular and a friend of mine liked it. The next series I'm going to be talking about that I do not think I'm ever going to read is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Gabaldon? Something like that. This series is also a TV show. A lot of people really like it. A lot of people really don't like it. Outlander, if you don't know, all I really know about it is like, I think a woman gets like transported back in time somehow and then falls in love with this Scottish guy, and I don't know anything else. And I don't know if anything else happens. I think why I don't want to read this series is kind of just two things. First, that I just am not that interested in the concept. I don't often read books that are mostly just romance, especially when it's not queer romance. I'm just not very much of a romance novel person. I tend to not like them, and I just like romance within another plot better. From what I've heard of the books and the TV show, there is a lot of sex, like a lot of sex, and I don't like that. Like I said before with Song of Ice and Fire, I don't like sex scenes. I can handle them every once in a while, but the more often they are and the more explicit they are, I'm absolutely not shading people who want to read sex scenes, people who enjoy writing sex scenes, or anything like that. It's just a very personal thing that I am just way too sex repulsed to deal with that very often. I will not enjoy it, and I will just be very, very uncomfortable. So I'm just gonna let some other people enjoy this, let some other people be happy. The last 3 series I'm going to talk about are all YA, and they're all a little bit older series, but they're all series that I feel like a lot of people have read and I have not, and I don't think I'm ever going to, so I figured I'd just mention them because content. The first of these 3 YA series is The Selection by Kiera Cass. If you don't know about this series, I can probably guess what generation age you're not, because I don't know how anyone who's like nearish to my age could not know about this series, because it was one of those series that was like at the rage of Hunger Games and Divergent and all that. It came right around that time in that big dystopian era that I think a lot of us regret. But if you don't know what it's about, Selection is basically just that this prince has to choose a wife out of all of these girls, and one of the girls, I don't remember her name, but she doesn't want to be involved in it. Like, she was forced to be a part of this competition. She's really in love with a boy of a different caste. Does this book have caste? I think it has caste. I really don't know, and I don't care to look it up. But then, while she's at this competition, she also falls in love with the prince. Oh no, love triangles. It's a 2013-ish book. Of course there's a love triangle. Basically, I'm just not reading this book because I don't think it's going to be interesting, and I think that it was another one of those series that kind of just sprouted out of the Hunger Games era, and I just don't think Tate of now would enjoy this series. It's very romance heavy, obviously. Has a love triangle. Like, I'm not saying that if you've read it, obviously, that you have bad taste or something. I just don't think my tastes are going to line up with this, especially since I am no longer 13. This next series is one that I, for a long time, really did want to read, and now I've aged and I don't want to read it anymore. And that is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. This was another one of those really popular series a few years ago. I don't know a whole lot about it, except that there are people who have red blood and people who have silver blood, and the people who have silver blood are like oppressing the people with red blood, calling them lesser. And I think people with silver blood have powers somehow, but the girl with red blood somehow also has powers, and they're like, it was one of those popular books in a time when I maybe would have enjoyed it when I read it, and now I'm past that phase, and I've heard from a lot of people that it's a very basic series, just that like the plot and how they do it, how they execute it is not that great. I'm just gonna leave this in like 2015 or whenever it was written and just let it live. Oh my god, 2015 was 4 years ago. The last series that I am not gonna read, I don't even know if I need to like add maybe not or probably not. I just don't think I'm ever gonna read it. I've never had interest and I'm never going to have interest. And that is Beautiful Creatures by Margaret Stoll and Cami Garcia. I literally don't know basically anything about this book except that I think it has like paranormal or supernatural elements, and that it's a YA that was popular several years ago, and that it's very romance heavy. And all of those don't combine well for me. I'm not a big paranormal fan. I'm out of that phase of liking a lot of those books. Not a big romance heavy. Haven't heard great things about the romance. I don't think I'm gonna like it at all. I have absolutely no desire, but I've heard that so many people have at least read it once, and so a little tiny piece of me wants to read it just to say I have, but like also my TBR list is longer than like how many books I've read, so maybe I should not add books that I don't want to read and just read books that I'm excited about. Okay, that is it. I'm sorry that this was a lot more casual and not as pretty to look at. I hope you enjoyed this. It's probably kind of boring, but like, what can you do? If you've read any of these series and you liked them or you didn't like them, comment those down below. What are some of your series that are really popular that you don't think you're ever going to read? If you'd like me to do one where I do popular series that I haven't read yet but I want to, also tell me that, because I have not read so many popular series, partially because I just keep stalling them, or I don't own them and I don't want to buy them, and I can't get them from my library, things like that, because they're really popular and it's hard to get a hold of them. So I'm considering doing that. If you're interested, leave that down below. Thanks for sticking around this long. I hope this isn't a very long video. Thanks for watching. See you later. Bye-bye.